All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Badass Lifter podcast. Today I'm here with Olivia Geraci. Olivia is a women's health and fitness coach. She helps active women who are done tricking themselves to fit in. And she's been doing this work for over 9 years now. Olivia, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
It's a pleasure. And I actually don't have many people on who I've met in person, so that's kind of cool as well, where
Yeah.
most of the people that I only know in the online space. So it's actually cool to bring on someone who I know in person and had got to meet. So thanks
Yeah.
for that.
It was a full circle moment getting to meet you in person and also so cool seeing your presentation because you are so well versed in everything to do with the research behind all the studies within the topic that you covered. It was a pleasure to see your presentation, but to also meet you.
Yeah, thanks for that. Yeah, and to be clear, she's referring to the conference that I spoke at a couple months earlier.
Hmm.
Let me actually help me get that gig, so I appreciate that.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Um, I had so much research ahead of time because I knew I was bringing something that people hadn't heard of before or had
Hmm.
really talked about, or if they have heard about it, they've heard the worst versions. So
Hmm.
I was just like ready for if there was backlash that I just had like the research documents
Yes.
ready.
It's like
That I
any
was
question
like,
that came in, you're like, it's right here. The
it's
research is right
right
here.
here. And I knew I talked, I like memorized the research. I knew what the paper was talking about. I was like, I was, and it ended up not being that important. Because it went well, I didn't get that much backlash, but I was just so worried that it was going to be like me debating 30 fitness students, for like an hour and a half.
Yeah.
But it ended up being fine. Yeah.
No, it went really, really well. I loved your presentation. And also, by the way, my cat he is like the number one reason why my presentations are always ruined online because he's so loud. So I'm so sorry if you hear him in the background because he's currently scratching something. So if you hear him,
I
I'm
don't
sorry.
hear them, so I think
Okay.
we're okay.
Okay, cool.
Um, why don't we talk about your style of training? Because in some ways, I think it's very similar to mine, and I would love to kind of talk about how you got there, because body neutral coaching is still pretty rare. So I
Yes.
would love to hear your journey on how you got there, and yeah, we can go from there.
Yeah, absolutely. So, long story short, when I got into the industry 9 years ago, I felt the pressures of looking a certain way, which happens to a lot of trainers. I lost weight pretty quickly. I started tracking my food, lost weight, and within a few months, I also lost my period. And as time went on, I also developed an eating disorder. So that was over the span of 5 years. I just summed it up very shortly. But my life basically became revolved around how I looked, and I noticed every single year my relationship with food just, I was always anxious around food. And I was like, okay, I never used to feel this way. Why am I all of a sudden feeling this way? And it progressively got worse every single year. Flash forward to 2020, COVID time. I just knew I wasn't well. I could tell in just not in just how I looked, but I was always upset. Like I was always irritated with people. I just wasn't me. And I knew I needed help because I still didn't have my period. And anytime I'd gone to a doctor, they told me just to get on the pill. So I didn't really think anything of it because my doctors didn't raise any red flags. And they didn't really ask me about what my relationship with food was, my body image, anything like that. It was only, you're still within the good BMI range. You should be fine. Like it wasn't really any much more detail than that. So anyways, flash forward to COVID, that's when I decided, I need help. And it took me about a year to come to terms with the fact that I actually needed to put on weight and I needed to really stop tracking food, at least at that period of time, to heal my relationship with food and challenge a lot of food rules. When I finally decided to say, like this is it, I need to go all in and get help, that was around 2021. I worked with an amazing dietitian named Elena Kanicki, and I got my period back within 5 months, but I also gained about 50 pounds in the process because I basically stopped exercising, and I just worked on making my body calm down because my body was so stressed out, and that's why I didn't have a period. And I abandoned all food rules. So gained about 50 pounds, and I think that the whole process made me realize, wow, there's a lot of women out there who are struggling like I am. And even though it's not a common area in the industry, there's definitely a need for it, even though it's not as popular. So after several months of, having a regular period, getting back into strength training, feeling great, I decided, you know what? Let me make a biz out of this. So I went online. Originally, my account was just posting, health and fitness tips that didn't revolve around body size. And then it branched into the coaching business that I have. So that's basically how I got here. And in terms of the women that I work with, it's not that I'm anti-weight loss. I'm not that. It's just we don't focus on it. We focus on other areas of health that we can improve outside of the scale. Majority of the women that I work with come from backgrounds of either eating disorders or disordered eating. So this is their way of getting back into fitness with a fresh perspective that's not revolved around just changing their body size. So, yeah.
No, that's a great summary. I love kind of the focus that you have. And I don't think I am anti-weight loss either.
Hmm.
I would just say that it's just like kind of like what you're saying, where it's just like not the focus,
Yeah.
and that we can have outcomes that don't relate around weight loss. Where for me, and I don't know if you do this, so I don't focus on weight loss at all.
Hmm.
One, because it doesn't feel something comfortable that I can guarantee, especially in the
Yes.
personal training space. But
Mhm.
also, I've noticed that when people are like, well, we'll just focus on both. For a lot of people, imagine it's a test. Losing weight is like 70% of the test.
Hmm.
Where it's like, sure, there's, healthy behaviors and, I feel better, but like, am I skinny yet? And then ends up kind of being the challenge. So for me, I don't focus on it at all because I find if we bring weight loss into the picture, even like a little bit, it ends up being the majority of the conversation for a lot of people, and
Yes.
that you end up kind of being a weight loss coach anyways. At least that's kind of been my
Yeah.
experience. I don't know if that's what's happened on your end.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you brought that up because I find that as well. There are people in the space that I work in where they do focus on physique goals with the same clients that I have had. And really, to me, it's about the people that I'm currently working with. I know that they're not in a standpoint right now to be focusing on those things because, as you said, I know that if we were to be like, okay, like let's start transitioning into some body comp goals, then that's going to become their whole way of thinking for the whole process rather than just being like, you know what? Let me give myself that break right now and let me just focus on healthy habits that aren't going to directly relate to my body composition right now. Because, like what you said, I find that for the standpoint where they're in right now, they would just be bringing it back to their body size at the end of the day and relating their progress to that. So I'm glad that you brought that up.
I like what you're focusing on as well. And I've had clients in the past who also lost their periods for various reasons. Also, shout outs to Elena. She's great.
Mhm. Yes.
I was on her podcast. She was actually a client of mine for a bit, and I trained
Mhm.
with her. So that was, like, full circle is pretty cool. She's great.
Yeah.
But I kind of agree with you where we need to move away from that for a lot of people,
Hmm.
especially in the scenario where you are, where like if you lost your period, like it's often the solution is to gain fat, not even just
Hmm.
gain weight.
No, it's
And
that. Yeah.
that can be a hard discussion, especially if you're a person who's like been training to lose weight for a long time. And
Hmm.
how do you have that conversation with them where like they've had 5, 10, 20 years of exclusively weight loss goals, and then you kind of talk to them and be like, actually, the solution for you right now is we got to put on fat. We got to do the
Yeah.
opposite of what you've been doing forever. Like, how do you even start to have that conversation?
Yeah, and I'm glad that you brought that up because many women who are in this kind of chapter of their life, they just think, oh, I need to put on weight. Oh, I can put on muscle. But they don't really realize that right now their body actually needs more fat. So I'm really glad that you brought that up. It's definitely a difficult conversation to have, especially when you've come from the mindset for a majority of your life where you dictate your worth based on, how lean you are. If you're the quote unquote fit one, do you look like the fit one in a group? So to all of a sudden hop to, okay, so I know I need to get my period back for my health, but now I need to let go of that image. So for me, I like to frame it from the standpoint of, okay, how can we redefine what fit is to you? How can fit be something that isn't just correlated to how you're looking? How can it be something that's correlated to what you're capable of doing? Right? And then it's just changing that perspective like that. It's kind of like a light switch to be like, what can fit look like to you? And fit can mean anything to everyone, right? It's different depending on the person. But introducing that and then also reminding many of these women too that we tend to get so focused on just the present that we forget that even when we go through this process of taking a break off of physique goals and leaning into this kind of chapter, that it doesn't mean that you're now the most unhealthiest person ever and that you can't care about how you look and you can't care about what you're eating. It really means that we are now just framing it from a perspective where we're looking at health from a full scope. We're not just looking at it at these two things only. And that you can care about how your body looks, you can care about the food that you're eating, but it doesn't have to come from a restrictive reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think that's like a good way of looking at it, and you have to like really define what is fit. And I think that it's tough because in the fitness space, fit has such a narrow description
Hmm.
often. And then when you look at like if someone's like, I want you to show me an account of a fit person,
Yes.
it is not a wide variety of looks. Let's kind of put it that way. It's often very
Hmm.
lean, muscle mass, but like still small. I think in the women's space, for the guy space, it's a little simpler because it's just like how jacked are you and how much muscle you
Yes.
have is kind of like a fit guy in quotation marks. But for women, it's like you have to be both athletic looking, but like still feminine and like still lean. And like when you say like fit, they're not picturing like let's say it's like a an Olympic rugby player who is like
Hmm.
by definition a fit person,
Hmm.
but typically does not have the fit look in the fitness industry. And I think redefining fit is really, really valuable in what you're kind of talking about because we need something new to shoot for. And I think this holds a lot of women back in the fitness space as well, because it's what I've seen is that the non-scale victories only really matter to people if it comes with the physique. That's like
Hmm.
one, like where it's like we can only talk about health and doing cool things and lifting cool weight as long as you have that fit look. But outside of that, suddenly it feels like for some people that it's like, well, something's kind of missing here that's really important. Or at least
Hmm.
that's been the experience of talking to people who aren't in the weight neutral space
Hmm.
is like if I'm just looking to, friends of mine who have regular jobs and regular careers, and if I ask them who like a fit person is, it comes with the look first and like then the skill set afterwards. I don't know if
Yes.
you, yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I'm glad that you said this as well because you're bringing up so many great points. But I'm glad that you said this too because I find with the clients that we have, it's important to remind them the reality of the majority of the population of what a quote unquote normal body looks like. Because we get so caught up in, okay, this is what a healthy fitness-based body looks like, but not, okay, but did you know that a normal body can actually vary for so many people depending on genetics, athletic background, whatever it could be, right? There can be so many reasons that somebody might be healthy but look completely different compared to somebody else who is healthy. So I think that a big part of it is giving them that reality check to be like, okay, but these are the types of bodies that you've ingrained yourself, but also as society has ingrained yourself that is healthy and fit, and you've forgotten about this whole other population of people who are still healthy and still fit, who might not be super lean and super jacked, right? So I think it's also sharing that like reality perspective of you're forgetting about this whole other population that's out there and what these normal bodies look like too that are still healthy.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Now, one unique challenge I think you might have specifically is that you're getting married soon, which is great. That's
Hmm.
not the challenge.
Yep.
But wedding culture is pretty wild.
Hmm.
At least like I got married last year, so I'm pretty familiar with like kind of what it looks like, and I know for a lot of women, it's pretty intense pressure to like quote unquote look your best, and look your best again has like kind of a certain look.
Yeah.
For you, how is navigating that going? Like, what's
Yeah.
the, yeah, or like if you don't mind talking about that.
No, I'm happy that you brought up this topic because this definitely needs to be discussed more, like the pressures of Especially like, yeah, grooms want to look great on the wedding day, but brides, it's all about are you gonna
But
fit
it's not
into
the
the dress?
same. I'm not going to pretend that
It's
it's
not the
not,
same.
yeah.
But still, like I know my fiance, he's like getting his best suit, like he wants to look good, but it's always the bride, like, are you gonna fit into the dress? Are you doing anything to get like wedding dress ready? And I remember there was a conversation at work that happened a while ago because a lot of people right now are engaged and they're getting married. And somebody said to the person that was getting married, like, okay, so when are you starting your, bridal dress diet? And he said it so casually and like it's so normalized, right? And really
It's part
it
of the
shouldn't be
process of getting married.
normalized.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you think about a bride, who majority of brides who plan the weddings, they're doing, 80% of the planning, maybe 90%, maybe 100% of the planning. They are so stressed out. And like speaking for myself, I had shingles back in January because I was so stressed out from wedding planning that to think of also being like, yeah, you're doing all this planning, you're, dealing with people's thoughts to what you're doing and opinions. But yeah, on top of that, you also need to lose weight to fit into a dress, which is a whole other ball game in itself. So it's really unfortunate that it is so normalized for people to be like, "Okay, I'm gonna get wedding dress ready." And for me, thankfully, with what I've been able to do with my body image over time and what I've been able to do in terms of defining, what health and fitness looks like to me, the least of my worries was being like, you know what, I need to squeeze into a smaller dress. That was the least of my concerns because I was already so stressed out with everything. I just had it in my mind where I was like, you know what? I know that for me, finding just a dress that fits me right now is going to be the best pathway for me to take during this whole process because that's one less thing that I need to worry about. And I know that no matter what, whatever dress that fits my body that I choose, I'm gonna look beautiful on that day because it's gonna be a dress that suits me. And I think that also brides tend to forget that there's so many different dresses out there for a reason. No matter how small you are or no matter how large you are, there's gonna be styles that don't suit your body type. So
Right.
even if, you are a smaller size or a larger size, you will find a style that suits your particular body, right? So that was my mindset going into the whole thing. But more people are definitely speaking on it. As you said, this is a touchy subject. More people are speaking on it and being honest about, what they had done to fit into a smaller dress and how it wasn't necessarily the healthiest thing for them to do. So yeah, that's basically been the process for me right now. I just decided, you know what, it's not going to be something I'm going to worry about, and I'm really glad that I went in that direction. And for brides that decide that they do want to go in that direction, it's totally up to them. But I definitely do want to point out that like if you are going in that direction, there's a way to do it in a much more healthier, realistic way compared to the unrealistic, unhealthy ways that many people promote.
Yeah, yeah, the promotion I think is key because I think it's yes, you want to look your best on your wedding day, but like also the promotional material for that is also pretty
Hmm.
aggressive,
It
and
is.
the pressure to look the perfect look, because these are photos forever that you're gonna look back
Hmm.
on, and like, what if you gain weight and then the dress doesn't fit, and then it's like, um, there's just so much there that I would say looking on the outside is pretty toxic. Like you're right. We're like for the guy, it's like, yeah, we want to look good for the day, but it's definitely not the same. And
Hmm.
I think for most guys, if they find like a suit that fits them well, like that's the pressure. And it kind of like stops there. And for women, it's like you got to have the perfect look because you're going to be looking down the aisle and there's going to be all these photos. And then, like, what if it doesn't fit right? And then it's going to, it's just like there's so much going on.
Yeah, and as
Yeah.
brides, like it's your day. Like, yes, it's you and your husband's day, but it's your day. It's outside of if you're planning to have kids, like this is an event for you, right? So you obviously want to be looking your best. I completely understand why there's so much pressure for it, but it it's just to me, seeing what people have done to get there, now being in the shoes of somebody who is planning a wedding and how stressed out I am all the time. I can imagine just how difficult it would be to attain a physique goal right now amongst everything else, or having that pressure on myself to attain a physique goal just for that one day when no matter what, there's gonna be bad photos regardless of how much weight you've lost. There's always gonna be bad photos, and that's why you have a photographer to literally get all these different angles of you, right? But at the same time, it's great that you went through this process with your wife last year. So you were able to have this sort of perspective for your wife, because at the same time, there are many husbands out there that, I don't know of any, thankfully, but there might be many husbands out there who wouldn't be providing the best advice for their wife going through this process, right?
I mean, most husbands, I mean, I'd like to think that they would be supportive, right? And imagine like the whole world's
Yes,
telling you to lose weight, and then like your husband's also like better look good for what, like that would be insane.
that would be, yes.
I can't imagine. I hope that doesn't happen. I haven't heard stories of that happening. If it does, it's terrible. Um, it's a lot of pressure. And like kind of like you were saying, like, I know when my wife did the majority of the planning, like full
Mhm.
disclosure. Like that was I helped a little bit, but it was, definitely she planned most of it. And then the idea that like, hey, you gotta do the equivalent of like a part-time wedding planning job. And then also let's make sure that you lose 20 pounds
Yes,
is pretty stressful. And
it
like then
is.
it's a lot to go into. And there's so much pressure for the day. I feel like it's safe to say it's more the woman's day than the man's day. And there's a lot more pressure put on the woman for that reason. The guy's happy to be there. He's excited to
Yeah,
get married, but like
yeah.
um I don't know what kind of wedding you're having. I had a Nepali Hindu wedding,
Hmm.
and definitely a lot more focus on her than it was on me, which I was fine with. I don't want that kind of pressure.
Yeah, you're like, please take it
I
off of
was
me.
fine, like I'll just be around, be there for photos, but like I don't need this kind of like for her it was like every event was just like surrounded and like photos all the time, and like it's
Yeah.
it's a lot. It's a lot of stress for I guess not one day. My wedding was basically three, 2 to 3.
Yeah, you
I
had
don't
many
know.
events, right?
Yeah, and many
Yeah.
events, all with different outfits, all with their own different kinds of pressure. So, and we had 300 people at the biggest event,
Yeah.
which was a lot. It was a lot. It was a lot. It's funny talking to my side of the family. My side of the family is like mostly Catholic, and we're used to like the 1 day, 100-person wedding is pretty common.
Yeah.
Um, so my side of the family talks about it as if it was like it's like the biggest wedding they've all been to by
Hmm.
far. Like it was such a massive event for them. And then I talked to the Nepali side about the wedding, and then they were like, "Oh yeah, like that was like a good, cute,
Yeah.
like pretty
Cute
bad.
small
Like
size wedding.
310 is like that's like the floor.
Yeah.
300 is like they were all talking about it like, oh yeah, I've been to 500, 600. Someone
Yeah.
told me like 800 to 1,000 people. I'm like, I don't care about that many people. Like I
Yeah.
just straight up like at that point you might as well just like put an ad out in the paper if you have 800
Yeah.
people. You know what I
Oh,
mean?
well,
Like
like
that's
you
yeah.
don't know everyone by that standpoint, right? And same thing for like for us as Italians, it's not a several day event, but normally it's between like 250 to 300 is what the norm used to be. And I definitely think with this population of people who are getting married right now, I think a lot more people are out of the tradition of I need to have this cousin of this cousin of this cousin here at my wedding who I don't know. And also because everything is so dang expensive that a lot of people who are in our shoes now are like, you know what, I'm gonna have people there that I at least know who I really want to pay for, who I want them to be there on my special day. And however, I still know like one of my best friends, she's getting married 3 months later, after me, and they're doing a 250-ish Italian wedding, and that's like the custom, like that's the traditional side of things. My makeup artist, however, she had just as you said, 1,000 people at her wedding. She's like, I had 1,000
Too many
and
people.
didn't know everyone. I just had 1,000.
Where do you even host?
Yeah,
Like
I don't
what venue
I don't
even can
know.
handle that many? I'm trying to think in Calgary. I think the biggest venue I know holds 500.
Yeah,
So 1,000, are you renting a hotel? Like I don't even
yeah.
know like what
Hotel arena, like
a
just
rate.
get the
Yeah, yeah.
arena.
Raptors Stadium, like just the it's the only place that can host your wedding.
Yeah.
And I think even I've done more and more. pressure to that, right? And then like again,
Mhm.
like are you really supposed to be planning this huge event and then like you got to make sure you have the wedding look, which again is like a
Yep.
pretty toxic idea, and there's just so much going on for the wedding that like now you have to have a certain look too, like that's
Mhm.
exhausting, you know what I mean? Like I
Yeah,
think
and
yeah.
there's a lot of coaches out there who, because everybody has their niche, right? But I've landed on many accounts that have showed up in like my For You page and stuff of coaches who specifically just focus on people who want to look a certain way for their wedding day. And like they've been very successful at it. So it goes to show you just how profitable that business is. And how there's people like you and I who are kind of like on the flip side here. We're like, hey guys, it's okay. And to each their own, but it goes to show you how popular this area of the industry is when it comes to looking a certain way for your wedding day.
Yeah, I'm sure. Like I've seen those pages as well. Like I know dietitians or trainers who like that's literally like their goal is like they work with you for 6 months to get you your like quote unquote dream body for the wedding, and like that is their whole
And
niche, and
that's
they
it.
only
Yeah.
work with like only work with fiancés basically.
Yeah.
And that's like that's their whole thing. Um, I know stepping up from the wedding stuff for a little bit, just in general, if someone's coming to you from body composition goals, you know,
hmm
that's the thing they're used to, and
hmm
they either want to be more body neutral or have to because of their circumstance,
Okay.
what's a good first step for a lot of people to jump into that space?
Hmm. You know what I find, and I'm not too sure about you with your clients. I find that for when I'm talking to someone who, brings up coaching, anyone who says to me like, well, I'm trying to lose fat right now, I'm always straight up like, I can't help you in that area. Like my coaching is not made for that. So I'm very straight up about that because the last thing I want is that somebody signs up with me and I just get them just for them to pay, which would be completely unfair when that's not even something I can help out with. So I always like to make sure when I'm speaking to a potential client, okay, ultimately, what are they signing up with me for? And I always let them know that, if you're somebody who has come from a background for years of just chasing physique goals and looking a certain way, that the things we're going to do are not going to be comfortable. Like, it's going to be very difficult. It's going to challenge you, but that's how you grow at the end of the day, right? You grow from stepping out of your comfort zone. So when I go through that with them, if they're open to that, to being like, I know I need the help right now, I know that this is not going to be easy, and that's why I'm reaching out to you, then I know that this would be someone I could proceed with, right? So I think when I come from the standpoint of just being honest and authentic in that, um, it really changes the game for clients. And I find that the most successful clients who have worked with me, and by success, I mean clients who have really seen improvements in their body image, clients who have regulated their period, clients who feel confident to continue what they're doing on their own outside of coaching. They're the ones who, when I went through this conversation with them, they were like, yes, I'm willing to do the work. I'm willing to um, listen to your advice. And, I know that you're here to help me out, but at the end of the day, this is the work that I have to do, and I'm open to that. Versus clients who are resistant to it, right? So I would say coming back to your question, which I know that was a very long response, for me, it's always from coming from an authentic point of view and an honest point of view. That's what makes a difference with my clients versus being like, yada, yada, like come into coaching, everything will be fine. You'll be okay. It's like, yeah, you will be okay, but we're going to deal with road bumps. Like it's part of the process.
Yeah, I think that honesty is appreciated. I think often sometimes the advertising in the fitness space can be like, you know, just do these three simple things and you'll be fine, or like
Yep.
it'll like you'll achieve, and then that's kind of pretty misleading, especially if they're straight up changing why they're training in the first place. There's
Yeah.
going to be a lot of like mindset work. There's going to be a lot of reframing why we're going to the gym in the first place, all of that kind of stuff, right? So I think it's great that you're authentic from the beginning and just from the thing like, hey, like I'm not a fat loss coach. So if that's what you're looking for, then
I can't help you. Yeah.
I'm not your person. Yeah. And I've
Yeah.
done that before. And I've actually had people, I mentioned I didn't work in fat loss and that I worked in making women stronger. And I've actually had people be like, "Oh, that's really cool. I want to do that." Even though they
Hmm.
originally came to me with like a weight loss goal. And I've
Hmm.
kind of learned that I think some people feel like that's the right thing to say, or that's like the
Hmm.
only reason to train. But once they hear a different type of training, they're like, "Oh, that's cool. Let me try that." So I think
Yeah.
that's awesome to see as well. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's great that you share that perspective with people because it is like what you said, it's very common to get into fitness because you want to change your appearance. Like there's a common correlation to that, right? So it's normal to hear people come into the standpoint of, yeah, like I want to get fit, so I want to lose some weight, but they don't really think about like what are all the other reasons that you can actually get into the gym. And even if somebody might look fit, like it doesn't mean that once they achieve that, body type, that all of a sudden they're like, okay, I'm done with the gym. Like, what's the deeper meaning to the gym behind just looking a certain way?
Agree more. Olivia, where can they find you? And if they want to work with you, what's the best way to do that?
Yeah, you can find me on Instagram at Lifted with Liv. So just LIFTEDWITHLIV underscore. There's an underscore at the end of it. So you can find me on there. And in the link in my bio, there is an application, but you can just send me a DM and we can always have a conversation. That's how I've approached many of my clients that way, just speaking in the DMs.
Nice. Awesome. Well, Olivia, it's been a
Thanks.
pleasure having you on the podcast
Thank
and
you.
would love to chat in the future.
Oh, you're awesome, Mark. Thank you so much.
All right. And thanks everyone else for listening to an episode of the Badass Lifter podcast.